The last time you saw my truck camper project, it looked like this. But now it looks like this. Yeah, no, it hasn't changed on the outside. Save for some waterproofing I put on the exposed plywood and this giant dead bug right here. The last time you saw the interior, there wasn't one. Well, I guess that's kind of impossible. If there's an exterior, then there has to be. That's not the point. Now the interior is done and it looks like this. Now sure, I'm no master craftsman or anything, but I'm bloody proud of this thing because it looks like a real camper on the inside, even though it unmistakably looks like something I made. This wood grain vinyl wrap, for instance, I like it, so I put it everywhere, on every little bit of exposed wood. And trim, there's a lot of it, because I had a lot to cover up. The ceiling, for instance, I had to cut into 6 pieces to mount. No bother, I just covered up all the seams with more trim. Now I tried to make everything in here as square and flush as I could, and some of it went well, but other bits didn't quite go so well. In the end, I'm an amateur and I'm the only one going to be living in here, so it doesn't really matter. The design and building of this camper by far took me the longest, but I'm sure you want to know about the little features it has. So let's start with the sink. Down here is a little switch for the water pump, and now you have running water. The water feeds from the fresh water tank underneath the seat through a tube to the sink and then drains into a smaller tank underneath the sink, concealed by the cabinet door. I have light blackened window shades on both windows. I have a spare piece of seat cushion fabric held up over the door shade by some simple disc maniers. And interior lighting is done by a simple LED light strip running the length of the camper. For the ceiling, I used these fiberglass reinforced plastic wall panels because they were mold resistant and light. That turned out to be a huge mistake because they're super flimsy, which makes holding a 4x sheet of this stuff over your head very difficult. I had to cut it into these sections in order to manage dealing with it. The trim I covered the gaps up with is custom made. I had to use a router and I felt super professional. I also used a spare piece of the ceiling material to make this backsplash around the sink and part of the seating area. The wall panels are all just painted 1/4 inch plywood. I should have used like 1/8 of an inch plywood or something thinner than that for lightness, but I'm an idiot. I also had a small fear of accidentally punching through the walls in my sleep or something. As I mentioned previously, I used this wood effect vinyl wrap pretty much everywhere because I like it, and it was a good way to cover up all the bare plywood. The floor is all peel and stick tiling over, you guessed it, plywood. I made these seat cushions myself, and they're very simple. They're just fabric wrapped over foam with a plywood backing, but the materials to make these seat cushions cost me over $130. Speaking of the price of the cushions, you're probably wondering how much this whole project has cost me. Well, I don't know. I stopped counting after a couple of grand to avoid insanity and depression, but the whole project has probably cost me about $4,000. I really went overboard, but look what it's got me, even though it cost me more than a Trabant. In case you're wondering, the cabinet door edges are white because I wanted to put this wood grain vinyl wrap on the cabinets, but the cabinet doors have this edge detail, which would have made wrapping difficult, so I chose to paint it instead. The cabinet doors themselves are MDF, and I bought them through Amazon from the Custom Cabinet Warehouse. You should really consider buying some if you want some cabinet doors of your own. I could get them in any size I wanted, which is why they're in just about every size possible. The cabinet doors are offset like this because it matches the contour of the truck camper frame and to accommodate the commode. The cabinets have nice shelves in them for easy storage, and the bottom of this cabinet is sealed off with this little hatch panel here, because this little board here is what stores all of the control panel components, including the power inverter switch, the AC outlet from the power inverter, and the solar charge controller. Oh yeah, did I mention I have solar power? I'll get to that in a second. First, let me show you under the seat compartment. The underseat area holds the water tank, water pump, 105 amp hour deep cycle battery, fuses, a massive wiring, and a 1000 watt pure sine wave inverter. I'll have to see how long that one battery will last, but I'm almost positive I'll have to add a second one. For charging the batteries, I have two 100 watt solar panels mounted to the roof in parallel. These solar panels will allow me to be pretty well off the grid, including this AC outlet I have running from an inverter. Now I wanted that mostly for convenience sake, so I could just pull over on the side of the road somewhere and stay the night, or maybe just in a Walmart parking lot without having to worry about finding a place to plug in or running a generator all night. Now before I forget, which is impossible because I'm reading off a script, I added two more tie-down anchors in the rear of the camper, which are accessible via these magnetic hatch panels I've installed on either side in the rear of the camper. Now since I mentioned off the grid, you might be wondering about a couple of things. How will I shower? What am I going to do for heating and cooling? Well, those are both good questions. For showering, I'm just going to use that magical astronaut-y no-rinse body wash and shampoo stuff. It'll be good for temporary use, and if I need a real shower, I can just go to a truck stop. They have actually very good showers. You'd be surprised if you've never used one. Now, as for climate control, for the winter, I'm probably just going to use a propane heater. I'm not worried about that. I haven't even thought about it yet. But for summer, even the smallest portable window unit AC will draw way too much power to run off these solar panels unless I get like 3 more solar panels and a ton more batteries, and I'm already at a weight limit, so that's not going to happen. I do have an idea what to do about this problem of cooling and ventilation, but I'm going to have to experiment with it, and I'll probably get back to you in a later video. You may be wondering what it's like to drive a pickup with a giant shed sitting on the back of it. Well, it has a lot of wind resistance, as you can imagine, from that giant sail up there, but that doesn't really affect the driving dynamics unless you go over 65, or get behind a semi, or drive on a windy day, or breathe. But that's fine, it only annoys me if I'm alone or with somebody. Now the one thing that worries me is weight. I weighed this truck camper fully loaded and it weighs 1,100 pounds. Now surprisingly, that undercuts most half-ton sized factory truck campers by about 400 pounds. Which is amazing because I use the ultra lightweight materials of steel and wood. What do they build those things out of in the factory? Lead? Now as you can see, the truck sits pretty level with the camper on the back of it. Now that's not great because I also want to pull a trailer with a car on it behind the truck with the camper on it. So I'll probably have to add some sort of suspension beefing up, like an extra leaf or maybe some airbags that are pretty easy to install. Now don't worry, I've looked it up and I'm well within the weight limits of both the axles and the tires. With just the camper on the back and no trailer, I get 10 miles per gallon. It's a good thing the cars I normally haul are pretty light, you know, except for the most recent addition to my collection that you haven't seen yet. And that's pretty much it. I have a truck camper now, no more hotels for me. I can go wherever I want and do what I want to, except run an air conditioner. If you have any questions about the truck camper or anything I may have missed, then you can ask them in the comments below, and I may get back to you. Now, before I go, I have a few Jimmy Fallon-style thank yous. Thank you, Menards, for giving me a convenient place to put all my money. Thank you, place of work, for giving me a place to endlessly ramble on about the thing I did to my camper last night, and for employing me to give me money to build a small building on the back of my truck. Thank you, Portable Toilet, for being there for me. Thank you, DC Fix, for making wood effect vinyl wrap with instructions in 20 different languages. And finally, thank you, Amazon, for giving me a convenient place to spend all of my time and money.